Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires.
Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me. I go back to me. Yeah, I'm back to me.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Yoli Tamu. Balancing your time with all your responsibilities can be a task in itself. Fortunately, in this week's episode, we are joined by Dr. Tracey Ford, Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs for the University of Texas System. While serving over 200,000 students in her system, Dr. Ford manages to help students prioritize their time in order to reduce stress and overwhelm. Learn how to strengthen your self-awareness and incorporate rest as a form of restoration. Enjoy. My goodness, I am excited to have someone with us today who is actually the Associate Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs for the University of Texas System. Say that 3 times. Dr. Tracey Ford. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Doing very, very, very good.
Yes, we're so grateful to have you. And like I told you, I was so honored to know that you knew a little bit about me before we even connected.
Yes, that Howard University connection is strong.
Yes,
And
it is.
and just knowing about your music and knowing about your podcast and all those things. So yeah, so I was very honored to hear from you and that we made this connection.
Absolutely. I appreciate you so much. So we focus on the incoming college student, that's dealing with all this anxiety of transition.
Yes.
And then, heading out into the workforce.
Yes.
Both the freshman and the graduate are dealing with that. And so in your field, I know you're outside of the campus, but you directly support the campus.
Yes.
So that's a different experience. So I want you to tell us a little bit about that and how you decided to serve young people in this way, in that format.
Yeah. So I started my career on college campuses. I tell people I went to college at 17 and technically I never left. I mean, I stayed in school. I continued to work at universities up until now. And while I'm in a system office, which means I basically work in what you would say is the central office for the University of Texas, and we have 14 institutions. And so my role here at the system is to work with our campuses, specifically our vice presidents for student affairs, to provide support to ensure that we have a healthy campus experience for our students. And so we have system-wide initiatives that support that. And we also make sure we focus on policies that support our students, especially outside of the classroom, so that they can be successful in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. So you have a hand in policy. That's great.
Yes, yes. And that's one of the reasons I like this role, because I've been a vice president for student affairs on 2 campuses. So I've had the opportunity to just really see upfront, personal, close, working with students, working with parents, working with the campus faculty and staff on how we can show up for our students and how we can really support them. And so working at a system, it gives me the opportunity to work on policy that supports a couple 100,000 students. I mean, we have over 250,000 students in the University of Texas system. And I worked in a similar position at the University of North Carolina, where there were also over 200,000 students. So when you have the ability to impact policy where it's going to touch that many students, it's really humbling and very special to be a part of those initiatives that we know are going to touch so many people.
Mm-hmm. You're actually making decisions up there. That's fantastic.
Yes.
So now, when we talked about some things before, you had mentioned some student concerns that they were having for access to mental health on the campus. And I'm sure that's a big one for a lot of campuses. So what were they telling you specifically were some of their concerns about that?
Yeah. And so one of the things I'll say, I'll get to the concerns, but I really want to talk a little bit about sort of how I came to this work and how I've just really become passionate about it. And that kind of informs my ability to connect with students and work with them. I grew up in a community where we just showed up for one another. It was all about, making sure that the neighbor had what they needed, the neighbor's kids had what they needed, that kind of thing. And so that was instilled in me at a very early age, that the first thing you do is care about people. and care about their well-being and care about, how you can support them as they move through this life and in the world, because we all really need each other. And that sense of community was very important. And so I began my career working in academic affairs. So there was a lot of work that I did in helping students with their academics. So tutoring and supplemental instruction and making sure faculty had the best tools to teach in a way that students could learn. And that was my focus around student success. But the more I got a chance to look at my students and see what were the barriers for student success, I found time and time again that it was so many things that were outside of the classroom, and in particular, mental and emotional health. Things and their overall well being. And I was in that situation where it's very, very, very hard to do physics when you are hungry or mentally struggling, emotionally struggling, and just having financial troubles. It's just all those things impacted. So when I had an opportunity to move out of academic affairs into student affairs, it became very clear that the number one priority was health and wellness of students. The overall health and whether that's physical, mental, emotional health of students. And so in doing that, I had to talk to them and ask them what was going on. And they shared some of those concerns with me.
They felt that comfortable. That's great.
Yes. I mean, I think that when you're in this field, and one of the ways when people ask you to describe yourself or things like that, the first thing I always say is that, I'm a people builder, I'm a connector. I relate to people. I love talking with people. I love being a part of this. And that's different for an introvert. But that's, my personality is knowing that for me to do what I need to do, you have to know people. You have to invite them in. And you have to also have the ability to disarm and have them as well let their guard down and be able to talk to you. And I found that that's probably my biggest, if you will, superpower in working with young people. It's the ability to relate and connect with them in a way that they tell you everything. And when I say everything, a whole lot of stuff that makes you clutch your pearls, but you have to,
Girl.
but you have to yes, look them right in the face and say, oh yeah, okay, and keep going.
Mhm. That's powerful that you say that you're an introvert, because I consider myself an introvert as well. And we are the ones that listen the most, I'm finding.
Mhm. And that really helped me as I listened to the concerns. So, some of the concerns that students have expressed to me around mental health resources on campus and mental health in general, especially coming into the institution as a new student, which already has its stressors, already has just the anxiety of being in a new environment and coming into college. But some of the things really centered around first was stigma. This whole stigma around counseling. And it's not just something that happens in communities of color. You hear that a lot where, people of color, in particular, African American, Latino communities have a stigma around counseling. It's everybody. There is something about people feeling vulnerable to go and have counseling or to be labeled in some way, because we also know what happens when we begin to label people. And so there was just a huge stigma around counseling. The other issue was that our hours and availability for counseling was really tough for students because they don't live 8 to 5 lives. None of us do. They don't live those 8 to 5 lives. And so we had to look at hours and availability, and they were very open about access when it came to our hours and the availability. And we've done some good work around extending hours and increasing availability for counselors. The other thing was just a limited number of counselors. I mean, and the backgrounds of those counselors. I had students basically say to me, they don't believe that the counselor can relate to them because they have not experienced the exact same thing or they don't come from the exact same background. And I said to them, you go to a doctor that may not have the specific condition you have, a medical doctor, and sometimes it helps that they've had a similar experience. But in many cases, they have not had whatever physical condition or issue that you're dealing with. But you go there and you're able to have, in most cases, a good experience and get what you need. So we need to, work through that as well. The other thing is the perceived cost. Many of our students think that mental health costs a lot of money, but most of our campuses are offering services for free as part of well, let me back up. I would say no cost to you because students pay fees. So I don't ever want them to feel like there's nothing wrong with something being free, but I also love the fact that we have to let students know that you do pay for these services. You pay student fees, you pay to be in school, you pay tuition. So when the counseling center is open, that's a result of the fact that you are bringing your resources to the institution. So why not use what you pay for anyway? And then confidentiality. I mean, I worked on a very small campus, less than 1,500 students, and so many students felt like somebody's going to know. They're going to see me walk into the counseling center. My counselor might tell my professor might tell my other professor, might tell my parent, that kind of thing. So, those were some of the concerns that they really had about seeking counseling and seeking support.
Hmm. Man, that was such a good example that you gave that we go to get our physicals and we don't, have a big problem about that with the doctors. It's so
Yes.
true. It's so true.
I get the vulnerability when you're actually talking to a counselor about your deep down hopes and dreams. It's one thing when a doctor's just, stitching you up or putting a band-aid on something and sending you on your way. But, when you're in distress, you get help when and where you can. And when you are able to identify a counselor that you feel comfortable with, that's great for ongoing services and for long-term care. But sometimes in the immediate moment and you need help, go seek the help that's there and then work toward maybe getting somebody that you believe is a better match for you.
Mhm. So when we talk about stigmatizing, because I mean, like you said, everybody stigmatizes. We're dealing also with the diversity issue based on what I'm hearing you say, that they don't see people that look like them. So how do you guys address the diversity issue, or are there other options outside maybe that they could connect with? I don't know if you guys have partnerships with other centers or.
Yeah, yeah. I think that a few things that are happening is that many of the counselors, regardless of race or gender, they're trained in a way where they're able to have a certain level of cross cultural competence that they can work with all students. And that's something that we really have to educate our students on. And sometimes it may not appear that this person can relate to you. But once you give it a chance, you find that that happens. So, one thing is that counselors go through really good education, and in most cases, they are trained in ways to work with everybody. There are more counselors that are coming into the profession from different backgrounds, so that's good as well. And there are counselors in the community if we want to connect students to counselors in the community. But the biggest key here is we're focusing on getting you support and getting you help, especially when they need it immediately. And that would be kind of, who's available and who we can, get you in front of as soon as possible.
Yeah. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And I was just thinking about when I spoke to someone before at a school district, and they were just saying that they make it a point when they talk to their counselors to make sure those counselors don't lead with their title.
Mhm.
Lead with your story, lead with who you are.
Yes, yes.
That makes it easier to connect.
Yes, because people can relate. We've all had similar experiences and we've addressed them differently. They may have presented slightly different, but those of us who've gone to college, we all had a college experience. We can relate to writing that paper at the last minute, having stressors from home. That's everybody, regardless of race, gender, background. There's a common experience that I think if we're able to show students that we have a common experience with them, they are more likely to open up. And that's the kind of work that our counselors are doing. And I think that you're seeing some really good work out of the people in the field, again, regardless of their background, what they look like or how they identify.
That's excellent. And so when you also said, time management is an issue. So I was just thinking, I'm wondering, are there some tips or strategies that you can offer for students to just implement better time management skills to make mental health a priority? It's like it should be number one.
Yes, yes. I tell you, when it comes to the time management, working with the students, that's really the biggest piece. When students come in, one of the first things we tend to do at a university, especially when they're going through their orientation or they're going through their first year experience course, we spend a lot of time on time management because that is the thing that can cause the most stress if students are not managing time in a way that they're able to get it all done in a way that doesn't start the stress process and then that can escalate into even more distress at some point. So one of the things I talk to students about is having some form of organizing your life and what you have going on. Some people do really well with calendars. Some people do well with to-do lists. Some people do well with reminders. They use their phone. Some people have a physical book they walk around with every day that's color coded and got everything in it. Whatever that thing is that works for you. I am a calendar/to-do list person. And that works for me. If I carry something physical around, I'm gonna lay it down, I'm gonna forget, whatever. So that's not always the best thing. But finding a way to organize your day, your time, and your life in a way that you're able to do it. Also recognizing that everything on that list and everything on the calendar, you don't always get done. So you have to do what? Prioritize. Take it in small bites. Do not put on the calendar 2 days before the term papers due, write term paper. No, that should have been all semester long. Week 1, pick a topic. Week 2, work an outline. So dividing it up into small pieces and manageable pieces, I think is important. And when you do get off track, just reset. Don't stress about it. We never get to all the to-do lists. We never completely keep everything in order. And that's part of it. So you got to be ready to pivot, not beat yourself up and start over. One of the things that we're seeing a big problem with students, and this impacts mental health, and that is sleep. If you have to schedule it, but you got to get plenty of sleep and be able to start your day early if possible so that you can go ahead and get up and do the things that you need to do so you can sleep at night. And we're seeing, for example, on many campuses, we use electronic assignment portals. And many times the assignment is due at 11:59 p.m. So most students are going to be up and wait and turn it in at 11:59, right? So what we're saying, what I'm seeing some faculty do across the country is say the assignment is due at 6 o'clock. That way, it's a way to signal to the student, I don't want you up all night to midnight, if that can help you get more sleep. And also seek assistance from a health or life coach or a friend who's good at time management, because they can give you really good tips on how to manage your time. And the last thing I tell students, it's hard for them to imagine it right now because many of them aren't making a whole lot of money. But I did say place a dollar amount on your time. When you think about what you want your dream career to be, they all graduate thinking they're going to make six figures. So this is wonderful. It's like, oh yeah, I'll be making $100 an hour. That's fine. We'll say your time is worth $100 an hour. I don't dispute it. It might be. And I said, okay, if that's the case, then that's $2,400 in a day of how you could spend your time. So let's think about your time from that standpoint. And sometimes people are able to put more value on their time and they figure out a way to use it wisely when they monetize what your time looks like.
Hmm. That's pretty cool. I didn't think about that. That's pretty cool. And then when you were talking, I was thinking about when you said sleep, how, I'm sure you and I can relate, when it was time to party, that was the release.
Yes. Yes.
Forget sleep. I'm going to go to this party. Okay. And I'm going to be all right.
Yes, and there are time for you to do that when you've kind of done what you needed to do and got your week in order and was able to get your assignments in and do that. You can do that if that's your thing. If that is, hanging out and having a good time, do that. Be healthy in doing it. And then you're able to have some guilt-free fun. When you're out and you maybe should be sleeping or working on an assignment, it's kind of hard to fully enjoy that moment because all this other stuff is on your mind. So it's like a reward or a treat to be able to go out and have some guilt-free fun.
That's what I was going to say. It's like there's something to look forward to is that time out or just simple sleep. Sleep is very
Yes.
valuable.
Sleep is very good. And our students, one of the things that they struggle with is putting those phones down. There's a lot of, research that links the light from the screen, the time on social media. You're overstimulated at night, on your phone or watching reels or social media, whatever it is that you're doing. Sometimes it overstimulates you to the point where you have a hard time sleeping, or if you can't turn your phone off, or at least put it on silent for a few hours, that can be tough. But also, when you eat and how you eat, that impacts sleep as well. If you eating pizza late at night every night, or going to happy hour and drinking for those of our students who are old enough to do that. That's also, you have to manage those things because it all impacts your sleep. And going back to connect that to time management, if you something you didn't get done or you wasted time that day, you are up all night and that impacts your sleep. So you've got to really make some deposits and getting the work done, getting everything you need done in a timely manner so you can relax.
And then when, since I'm the one that brought up the partying, it's not about just thinking that you're a nerd or you're not cool because you want to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think when you said that is so important to see how valuable it is to just stop, like you said, and take a break from everything and not to second guess yourself. Because some students do that. Like, oh, I feel the pressure and I need to be a part of this or be a part of that. You don't have to be a part of everything that's going on. Just stop.
Yeah, it's a time, and one of my colleagues calls it the nap ministry. They're like, become a member of the nap ministry. Get your nap in, make it a priority. And there are campuses that have nap pods. I mean, I've been on a campus where we would have a wellness day and we would set up nap pods throughout the campus where students could come and just lay down and relax. It reminded me of old school kindergarten where it was nap time and they cut out the lights, everybody pull out their little blanket or whatever, and you were able to just take a break and relax. And I recently saw on social media where I believe it was China, where the kids' desks convert to these like recliners almost. And they take a break in the middle of the day to sleep, to rest. And I tell my students, when you think about rest, it's short for, in my mind, restoration. It's short for when you're able to rest, you're able to restore and you're able to, kind of reconfigure even how you've been thinking about things. And that's what quality rest will do for you. And if you got to schedule it, but get some rest.
Wow, nap pods and recliners. That's
Mhm.
cool.
Yes, I know. We bought massage chairs at my last institution, especially for commuter students. Students on campus can go to their room most of the time and relax and lay down. But campuses that have a lot of commuters, you really have to think about where can they go between classes to relax and take a minute and, just kind of restore and refresh. And so I think that's a good strategy of having these different places on campus where people can actually do that. We just need to slow down sometimes.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Well, this has been really great. And I'm thinking about as we're heading into the holiday season, this is an opportune time to start practicing,
Mhm.
setting up what this winter is going to look and feel like. So, as we wrap up with final words of encouragement for our listeners, what do you have for that person that just really needs to take time management seriously? Like, they really need to improve in this area as we head into the holidays.
Yeah, I think one of the things is just to really start and start where you are. Be honest, take a good assessment of your time. Take a couple days or a few days and really map out your time. And that's a time tested strategy of where you do a time management thing. You show everything you did over a few days, and then you're able to go in and find ways in which you can identify, man, I waste 3 hours just sitting here on social media. That's an area I can help. But you got to know what your issue is first, and you got to know where you might have some time issues. And I will say this, it works both ways. And that is, you have people who totally dedicate all day, every day to scurrying and getting it done. We have to sometimes pull those people back too. So there's not sometimes always, quote unquote, wasting time or not managing your time well. Sometimes students are overscheduled and overmanaged. And that in itself can lead to issues as well. It's really about balance, and it's about starting, where you are. I think students have to truly understand, what their state of health is. You got to be self aware. You got to know this is me when I'm really feeling good, and this is me when I'm off. And you got to know the difference. And if you're a little off, schedule that time, schedule that moment to see what's really going on. If you need to talk to somebody, make a phone call to the confidant, talk to the counselor, or just do some mindfulness or some breathing. Do that. There's always time to reset. Don't keep pushing into the wall. And one of the things I told the students, I said, there were times when I would always hit a wall, but I knew I was growing when I could see the wall and pull back before I hit it. So I want you all to see the wall. And when you see the wall, that's the moment to pull back. You have to make time for that. You just can't keep running and running and running because you're going to hit the wall. And that's worse than if you just took a minute. And sometimes it's short as a minute or two. Breathing exercise, hit your watch, take a minute, do some breathing, and just recenter, get yourself back. And if you can't seem to do that, I think that's time for you to connect with somebody or get some help or step away.
Hmm. And what do you think about like really communicating with professors? Like if you know that you might miss a deadline, say so up front. Make
Yes.
an arrangement.
Yes, and many of our professors are really partners in this because one of the things that I know I've been able to do on campuses is really help faculty reflect on their own mental health. And then they become more sensitive. If you ask them how stressed they are, they're stressed to the moon as well. They are dealing with their own issues. So when they're able to fully reflect on the fact that they're having their own struggles, some of the same struggles as students, they tend to be more sensitive to students when they come to them and talk with them. And we've got to really take down some of that tension with the students and the professors as well to say, you know what, you can come talk to me. And honestly, sometime a professor is going to say, I cannot accept the late assignment. Here's why, but here's how you can still stay on track for the next time. You can still pass the course because sometimes the answer is going to be no.
Right.
And no doesn't mean I don't care. Sometimes no is no because that's the standard, that's where we are, and we're going to be able to work through it. So the key to that is, again, not feeling like it's the end, but it's okay, here's what you can do next time so that you can meet the deadline, you can meet the standard. But in many cases, professors are going to give you time and they're going to work with you to meet the standard.
Yes. So glad you said that. Well, this has been fantastic. So I appreciate you. And if some of our listeners want to learn more about what you do, or is there a website or maybe on LinkedIn if they want to reach out to you?
Yeah, I'm just Tracy D. Ford on LinkedIn, the initial D, and work at the University of Texas System. So you should be able to, I think there's a few of us on there, Tracy Fords, and also on X, formerly known as Twitter. I'm at Delois86. And also we do quite a bit of work here in Texas. And so our website is always updated with what our new initiatives are and what we're doing, as well as our social medias as well. So if you look up the University of Texas System, you'll see quite a bit of what we do to support students, specifically around health and wellness.
And I love the fact that self-awareness is top of mind on what you said.
Yes, yes, you won't be able to do it until you're able to get in tune with yourself. And that's a practice. That's why I'm always like, I'm gonna meet you where you are. It's a practice to do these things. I mean, we're still practicing, right, Yoli? We're still like trying to figure this thing out as we go as well. So it's not a perfect thing, but give yourself grace and give yourself space to really find out who you are and the different versions of self. Like I said, there's a really healthy place. There's a place when you're off a little bit, and you really won't know that unless you have a sense of awareness.
So good. So good. Well, thank you for being with us. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
time.
Thank you so much. This has been amazing. And the one plug I do want to give is that most of our campuses now have online resources where students can access health and counseling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week from anywhere, a virtual health coach or counselor, or even psychiatry, where they're able to access help. So this barrier of hours and availability, campuses are eliminating that. And I really want to plug that so that students, parents, and others know in Texas, we have timely care. It's 24/7. Students have access to support. And that's a big thing I really want to plug. Have parents, have students ask about all the resources that are available to them, all the things they can access to assist with them. And they'd be surprised how much support is out there.
24 hours. So they would call the student center to get that direct
We
access?
have a link for them. We have a phone number. We have a link that they can make the appointment. They
Mhm.
schedule it kind of like, Zoom type of appointment. They get on there and they can have support. And the other final tip I give is that students should program all these services in their phone, every phone number, because when you need it, no time to be online trying to search for it. You go on your phone and you find the number to the counseling center, the number to timely care, the number to your faculty, the number to your advisor. It's already there. Program it in, their emails, everything, and it's right at your disposal. The suicide hotline, all of that, put that in your phone. And parents too, put as much as you can in your phone, and you're able to go to it quickly and click, not trying to find it online at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. Oh, that's excellent. Excellent tip. Put it in your phone. Well, thank you so very
Thank
much.
you
My
for
goodness.
having me. This has been awesome talking about one of my favorite subjects and students and their help and their support. So I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to connecting with you and us talking more because this is a powerful conversation. Self-awareness is key. Is key.
Mhm. Yes, it's key.
Yeah.
It's key.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ford. I look forward to talking to you more. All
Thank
right.
you.
You take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us. Remember to visit your campus website and be sure to program all your campus services in your phone. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast, and if you would like to learn more about other special events, join the Back to Me podcast Facebook group, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.
Back to me.